Well, again, it's a pleasure to be here, and we actually have a wonderful panel to end this day. I just want to welcome to the stage, therefore, His Excellency Khalid Mudaifer, Vice Minister of Mining, Robert Friedland, which we obviously know as the founder of Ivanhoe Mines, Andrea Boyd, which you already heard from the European Space Agency. We have Chris Maybury, Vice Chairman from Bermuda Commercial Bank, and last but not least, Warren Irwin, President and CIO of Rosseau Asset Management. So we have a daunting task here because we're supposed to look forward to 2032. We're supposed to get an idea of what will be the future of mining over the next 10 years. And I'd like to turn maybe to you first, Robert, if it's possible, and get your thoughts of what will be the main trend of the mining industry over the next 10 years for our audience. Where do you see this sector moving forward at a global level? I ask the same question, therefore, after to His Excellency on Saudi Arabia specifically.
First of all, for the next 10 years, unconventional gas and hydrocarbon will be of increasing, not decreasing importance, because energy security is absolutely critical for 7 billion people going to 8 billion people to 9 billion people. We have been developing a film on television to talk about mining copper on Mars in the 29th century, because by then the world has become green and copper becomes the world's most important metal. But between now and then, I believe that young Saudi people will really open up this country, probably the world's most dynamic economic growth. We will see higher hydrocarbon prices, and the alternatives to hydrocarbon will also be very, very important, like all the electrically conductive metals. And so I think Saudi Arabian Shield will be explored, and I think we'll have a big penetration in electric cars, but those electric cars will only be affordable by the wealthier countries. So we'll be working on finding a way to make batteries with cheaper and more plentiful materials. And so we'll have to we'll be looking for elements in the periodic table that nobody in the room is thinking about. Everybody thinks of copper and gold, for example, but in 10 years we'll be looking for other materials. And I'm sure you will have a lot of that, inshallah, in the Arabian Shield.
No, perfect. Thank you for bringing that perspective for the global level. I'd like to learn more about, specifically Saudi Arabia. For the last few days, we've seen the increasing potential for the mining sector here. We've seen how this could actually change the face of the country and the economic help towards the diversification of Saudi Arabia. Where do you see mining in Saudi Arabia in 2032?
Maybe to start, Remy, I've been working most of my working lifetime in mining and minerals. And I can say today that we have never been in such a pivotal position in terms of the mining sector in Saudi Arabia. There are many factors getting together in the mineral sector, but also on the whole of Saudi Arabia transformation that will make us leapfrog ways in the 10 years. I think we have built the platform and the springboard that can take us to a different altitude in the coming years. In Saudi Arabia, we bank and we will bet on our young men and women on leading this sector. I'm sure the number of young men and women you have seen today, they will be by 2032 leading not only in Saudi Arabia, but will be an example for the whole world. This is what would be, and this is what we are investing in, and I'm sure this is our highest return. The second thing is that Saudi Arabia is also building technological advancements. I'm almost certain that by 2032, we will have a waterless gold beneficiation and concentration, a copper mining without using water, and utilizing all of our waste is treated with this treated water or sanitary water in our operation. We'll have technology to our side. We have invested in Saudi Arabia big deals in technology, and now technology, I'm sure, starting from today, or long time, but we'll build on and use it more in our mining sector. And more than, so the human capital part of it, but more into the technology. And as we said, Saudi Arabia had transformed very well over the 5 years. We have changed a number of laws, number of regulation, enabled investments, enabled in all sectors. We will see industry and mineral industries and mining leapfrogging from now to a great future, maybe 10 times more. And on my personal level, I made an investment yesterday on mining, maybe $100. I'm sure by that time, with the great investment in Saudi Arabia and the region, it will be $1 billion. So my retirement is safe. Huh?
Maybe I'd like to specifically take a close look at exploration at first, and maybe turning to you, Andrea. I mean, you have a career that starts, from traditional exploration in a mining company, and then you actually join the European Space Agency, another type of exploration, obviously here. I think a lot of people listen to your inspiring thoughts about, lunar exploration and others. Looking at it from a technological perspective, where do you see the future of exploration in the next 10 years in exploration specifically?
Mm-hmm. I think with exploration, particularly what we found in space exploration, we need to have, as His Excellency mentioned, a lot more reusability, a lot more sustainability, that we're not, throwing away slurry and things like that. On the space station, for example, we have a joke that today's coffee is also tomorrow's coffee, because we reuse and recycle 75 to 80% of our water supply on a closed loop system. Which is really excellent. And we have that as well for our lunar exploration. We really have to utilize the resources that we have on the moon when we go and live there sustainably. And we really need to be able to use all of the elements and reuse all of the elements within our mineral and mining processing system for sustainable life in future exploration.
No, thank you. Maybe a similar question to you, Warren, but maybe more from the perspective of financing a series of exploration projects. I know you actually take positions in different jurisdictions, from Latin America to Asia through Rosseau Asset Management. Where do you see the success stories for exploration companies, whether worldwide, but also specifically here in the Middle East? Which one are the ones that are likely to succeed?
Okay. The ones I'll be looking for going forward would be ones which have a bit of an edge, a bit of a new angle to them. So I would imagine going forward, there will be some, in a lot of the jurisdictions that are already, I'm not saying mined out, but have been explored quite extensively, we need to go deeper. So what we'll need there, as far as technology goes, is we'll need deep penetrating technology in the geophysics. We'll need next generation to start going after these deposits deeper. There will be new mining technologies to go deeper. What's interesting about Saudi Arabia and countries in the region is the land has not been as extensively explored. So over the next near term, we could look a little bit more on surface and then eventually go deeper, and they'll benefit from the technology long term that's developed in other jurisdictions to go deeper. Some other interesting technological developments, I think, going forward that I'm looking for is with respect to lithium. Right now, lithium, there's a lithium triangle in Argentina and Chile, but there are some salars throughout the world that have as much lithium brine as those areas, yet there are a number of nasty chemicals in it, nasty elements in that lithium brine that we cannot extract at the present time. So I think there will be a lot of technological advances with respect to lithium, where we'll be able to, there's no shortage of lithium in the world, but I believe once we crack a few technical problems, we'll be able to extract lithium considerably faster, more efficiently, and with less environmental footprint than we currently do. So those are the types of things I'm looking for in the future to put some money into.
No, very good, and I like the fact that you actually also, talk about this nexus between mining and energy, and we'll probably talk a little more about this in this panel. But as we see access to critical mineral being more and more important, the mining sector being relatively even stronger in the next few years because of the need for new components for the energy transition, which has been a common theme throughout this conference. I'd like maybe to turn to you, Chris, because I mean, obviously with the rise of the importance of the mining sector, when you look at the need for human capital, when you need the need for the understanding of technology and a new workforce in the sector, I know you wanted to touch upon this and maybe give some thoughts about how to make sure that we actually train the workers of tomorrow in the sector.
Oh, thanks, Remy. And I think over the last few days, it's been tremendous how we have heard how the jigsaw has come together. We heard from His Royal Highness and from their excellencies that Saudi Arabia is open for business in a way that many people didn't know. We've heard from Robert Friedland the demand for the metals that will be found here is insatiable. We heard from Robert Friedland we should buy his shares as well, in case anyone forgot. We have heard that the mining that will take place in Saudi Arabia is going to be state-of-the-art, so there will be environmentally friendly minings. We've heard about the geography of mining here. I think those are tremendous elements that have come together, but the one thing that exercises my mind is that to make all of that happen, the increase in talent that will be needed at the highest level of the most technically trained minds in the world is going to be exponential. Saudi Arabia is in a tremendous place. I heard from His Excellency, the Minister of Education, yesterday that 70% of the population of Saudi Arabia is under 35. But as we have developed these tremendous innovations, I don't think we have developed the education that is going to fill these jobs. And I think all of us have a responsibility to think that. I think that situation has been somewhat exacerbated by 2 years of COVID, which have slowed down so much of the youth of today's education and learning, and there's catch-up there. But whilst we've invested in all these technologies, we have not invested in thinking about how we can train people better and train more people. And I think that none of this can happen unless we have that skill set. So I think that all of us, and I'm a trustee of an educational trust, been talking to His Excellency the Minister of Education here, and we're going to get involved in the universities here because good education changes lives, it changes businesses, and I think that we all haven't thought about it enough. On a practical basis, on a systemic basis, through formal education at a higher level, but also everyone in this room could mentor someone, could spend just a few hours. You don't have to like them, but you can tell them where they're going wrong, you can advise them, they can be a sounding board when they don't know what to do. And I think that for all of the things to happen, there is an element that, frankly, we need to take somewhat more seriously.
And you mentioned, indeed, I mean, the importance of investment in education, and definitely here in Saudi Arabia is one country that has strongly invested in education over the last few years with development of key universities. We have a population in Saudi Arabia which is fairly young, and we'll actually see its future potentially in the mining sector. I'd like maybe to try to turn to the youth of Saudi Arabia and see through your eyes Khalid, the perspective that we can see in the future for the youth in Saudi Arabia through the mining sector. What's your take on this?
Yes, I think the mining in Saudi Arabia and the mineral and the industrialization, the mineral industry in Saudi Arabia is the future for young men and women to work on. This sector is just open up, we're building it, and hopefully with technology and capability that the future will build into it, will be more welcoming to all the young men and women that will make a difference, not only to the industry, but also to the world. And the future would also, as we said, the technology, and we have to work from now to 2032 on the quality of learning and education, and especially in geology and mining, engineering, but all other teams. But these are two, because the sector is new, the education have we have a good base, but we have to build on it and make it even better. And this is one. And I think for the whole of Saudi Arabia, the young men and women have a better future than we did 20 or 10 years ago, because one, we are already transformed. Second, it's an open opportunities for everybody to take. But I want to also add on the perception of mining. I think we heard from Robert, from Mark, from many others, that we hope by 2032 that perception, that we have all as an industry worked hard on it, that we have changed it from a tobacco type of perception to walking around, those young men and women working in the industry, walking around the world and being thankful. People will be thankful for them for making the life of the world a better life. That is very important, that we in the industry have to work, because mining, we all know it's important. Minerals are very important, but the perception still need a major change. So I hope that by 2032, we will be walking around the world and people thanking us as an industry, as miners, for making the life a better life for them.
No, and you make a very strong point on the perception of mining and how sometimes we fail to see how the mining sector contributes to a series of very central sectors, whether it's renewable energy, whether it's inclusive development in a series of jurisdictions. It's going to be key to the future of Saudi Arabia. I'd like to turn to you, maybe Andrea, because I know you wanted to mention the work to discuss on this issue of attracting young talents in the industry. You're the example of a young woman that's been successful through BHP and then in terms of mining in the European Space Agency. What could you actually share with us to convince some of the people listening to us that they have a very bright future in the mining sector and will actually contribute to the society?
Yeah, absolutely. Mining is a fantastic industry to work in, and I think you need to have exposure to the students at an even earlier age to attract them into it as well before they're making their university decisions even. We started doing in Western Australia, for example, some interactive programs with the schools. In one of the biggest mining places in Western Australia, the children of the people that worked in the mine did not know what their parents did. And so we brought them in, we had interactive days with them. To be honest, I didn't realize what the mines were like until I went up to visit some of my former classmates that were working there and found out my company had a couple of people and said, well, I'm transferring up, like it's fantastic. Honestly, even now, if I could do FIFO, a week of shifts at the mines and a week of shift with the space agency, that would be my ideal. It is a wonderful industry to work in. It's very well paid. Really good safety that gets drilled into as well that you're not going to learn in any other industry, and the hands-on skills that you acquire working on site at a mine really make you a better engineer, a better scientist, a better technical person. It's a brilliant industry to work in, and I would highly recommend it, and recommend that we expose younger people to it, and really younger people. Let's start younger than what we think, not at university, that's almost too late. Let's start at school level to expose them to the mining fields.
Maybe transition to Robert for the next question. And we talked about the reputation of mining. You successfully developed projects all around the world, from Mongolia to Colombia. You're looking at different projects, and I know you're interested in this region also. What leads for a project to be successful in those different regions? How can we actually improve that reputation of mining and attract young workers and employees in your companies?
First of all, Allah was very kind to Saudi Arabia with the discovery of the Ghawar field. That was the largest mineral discovery that has ever occurred on this particular planet. And when you look at the value of Ghawar and what has been found in the eastern forelands of Saudi Arabia, that is the largest gift from God on this planet, and is still and will remain very, very important for energy security. And now you have unconventional gas. And that will be enormously important as a transition fuel no matter where the world goes. But Saudi Aramco is really a technology company. Oil and gas has adopted the highest imaginable technological prowess. There's nothing low technology about oil and gas, and it will be the same with mining in the kingdom and around the world. Mining is transferring to using artificial intelligence and satellite imagery and extremely technologically advanced sensing systems. Now, in the United States, in the last generation, a lot of our young people went into broadband or internet or Netflix or the cloud, super high technology. But now we're realizing that those very high technologies require the periodic table metals, or the whole thing will come to a stop. So I think that you will see the development here of an extremely high quality, high technology innovation. You're saying 2032, but Vision 2030 is the actual deadline. And I'm very confident from the young Saudis I've met and the ideal environment you have here. Your society knows that Allah has given us a gift of oil. It is a gift. It was not created by mankind, it was given as a gift. These other metals are also a gift. And so with government support, with the infrastructure, with the inexpensive energy, with a large undeveloped resource base and a very young population, this will become a center of pilgrimage for the miners. Because you have government support. His Excellency, the Vice Minister and the Minister have created this conference. This kind of conference creates an enormous amount of global energy for the development of this industry. If there is one thing we must talk about, to be sensitive about, however, it will be the most valuable thing of all. The most valuable physical commodity will be water. So I've been studying what I can of the Quran in the English language, because Arabic is not my native language, but 63 times the Prophet, may he rest in peace, he has talked about water. And traditionally, you need 2 cubic meters of water for every 1 cubic meter of rock to extract the metal. This will be a big problem on the moon and on Mars. But we see the development of technology, as the Vice Minister was correctly saying. We should emphasize this point. Technology is being developed that will be able to crush and grind this rock without water, because water will become, this is already much more expensive than crude oil per barrel, right? So in 10 more years, water is going to become very, very valuable. We need water for mining, but in the future we will need less and less water for mining. And the technology for extracting water and the technology for mining will all work together and also piggyback on a lot of the technologies developed at Saudi Aramco. So this becomes the most interesting country in the world to bring all the best technologies in the world and to work with the young people to see that this is very important to the future of the world. Everything we touch, we grew it agriculturally or we mined it. And so it is the most basic of human activities. And you've been mining gold here for a 3,000 or 4,000 year history. So inshallah, you'll accept all of us to come and we can all work together to make history in a way that is very, very great for humanity. And one more thing. In the Bible, it says that Allah put the water on the earth 4,000 years ago. That is not correct. In the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad, rest his soul, said that in long, long time ago, mountains of water came to the earth and brought the water to this earth, and that is actually scientifically correct. The water on this planet came from comets and asteroids. The gold on this planet came from comets and asteroids. So we should remember how vast the universe is, and we should try to benefit humanity by working together. And I believe that young Saudi Arabians are in a position to make a huge difference in the world economy and in the perception of Islam as the religion of peace, and with a tremendous role to play. So I'm very humbled and very thankful for the opportunity to be here. I want to thank again the Vice Minister and also the Minister for putting together this whole idea that mining will become a pillar of the Saudi economy. Once the government had the wisdom to make that a policy, I'm sure in 10 years that people will come here on pilgrimage and seek the support of the Saudi government, because all of Africa needs to develop its mineral resources. Africa has the metals the world needs. And so Saudi Arabia can be a center of excellence, not only to train young Saudis, but to send them out to the African continent and help uplift those people with development, with Islamic sort of development standards. You know that China is all over Africa, and it's somewhat controversial, and we have to work with our Chinese friends. But how these elements are developed for the common benefit of humanity will be very, very important. And I'm sure, I'm confident, from what I've learned and seen, that Saudi Arabia will play a very important role in this, inshallah. Thank you.
I agree. Maybe turning to Warren and Chris, and we've been listening to the very wise word from both Robert and His Excellency on the question of the best practices that will be developed here in Saudi Arabia and the importance of ESG when you actually integrate those in mining project. Maybe turning to you, Warren, first. I mean, what's your take on the inclusion of ESG on successful projects here in Saudi Arabia, and especially for exploration, but also producing assets?
Yeah, obviously I've been in the mining business for 30 years, so I've watched it change over time, and I'm a bit of an interesting in that I'm a bit of an environmentalist. So when I see an open pit mine where there really should have been an underground mine, I'm obviously quite supportive of underground mines. So I see in the future with respect to mining, let's say mining practices, which would be more environmentally friendly, let's say. I'm seeing some really good technology with respect to underground mining. I think the mining of the future will be a significant amount of it will be underground, a lot more than it is today. Also, we're looking at, certainly in Canada, I'm working on some projects right now where we're looking at disposing of any tailings, underground tailings disposals. And I think that the mining industry could do a lot of things to reduce our footprint globally. And one of them is underground mining. There's a lot of bulk underground mining techniques that are quite economic these days. And underground tailings disposal, in some instances I've also noticed you're able to put a significant amount of the mining machinery and operations underground also. They're pre-processing underground. So it's good to see the mining industry trying to reduce the environmental footprint of a mine, so they're more acceptable to the world and to the local communities in which they operate.
I will turn to you, Chris, in a second, and then after, obviously, I'm going to be asking for maybe your final thoughts and the key takeaway of this conference. But Chris, you come from the financial sector. How much do you see, this question of ESG and new technology being, central to the decision from financiers when they actually, invest in a series of projects, especially here in the region?
I think absolutely essential. It's becoming such a criteria for all investment anywhere in the world, Remy. But I think also building on Warren's point that Saudi Arabia has the opportunity for the sort of technology and mining that you were referring to. I mean, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be state of the art. But I think one thing perhaps is missing is that I think the general populace around the world, especially young people, have no idea that their green revolution, that their environmental changes totally depend on mining. I think that everything that happens from wind farms, as Robert was saying this morning, through to EVs, through to solar panels, depends on mining. And I think that people need to be educated to that fact. So it's not the fact that we need metals. We need metals like never before. But it's how we mine them, how ethically we mine them, how environmentally friendly we mine them, and making people realize that the idea that you aren't going to mine, we're going to be mining more, is essential. And I think, to answer the point you asked me originally on financing, that is going to become part of the criteria for financing, more and more so. That what is the footprint that you're leaving, and how are you going to mine, and where's it going, and has it been dealt with in the way that you said it has been?
Thank you. I mean, we have the chance to close a very premier event here on mining and on the future of mining in Saudi Arabia specifically. And as I was mentioning, I'd like maybe to turn to each one of you and try to share the key takeaway that you would like to provide to the audience. And please, maybe starting with you, Your Excellency, what is the one idea that you would like people to bring back home?
Yes, Remy, thank you. Thank you for that chance. I think this is very important for closing remarks. I would have a one point for the world itself, the globe. I mean, regional, the industry as it. Hoping, I'm sure that by 2032, hopefully, we had invested enough, discovered enough, permitted enough projects, and investment would have been flown into the sector so as to supply the world needs for a better life and more minerals. On technology, there would be also an investment in technologies, and from exploration to closure of the mine that will help us do it safer, greener, and more efficient and more effective, and as Robert have said, with zero drop of water and hopefully no carbon emissions. On the region, I hope by that time there is 79 countries in this region, so by that time I hope we see at least 162 or 79 mineral champions from all the regions, one champion at least for each region. That is a major in the globe. And I hope that by that time, the region would have been supplying and manufacturing and processing and creating value in the region for the world. On Saudi Arabia, by that time, 10 years from now, and by that time we have realized our first vision, the young men and women of the country will take us to another leap and will be creating the second greater and brighter phase of the history of the mining. But in Saudi Arabia, hopefully we will be having one of the world's best and more efficient and more liquid equity market for mines and exploration. So London and Toronto and Sydney have to watch the Riyadh capital market. By that time, we would have mining as an important pillar for Saudi Arabia and hopefully for the region. And by 2032, Saudi Arabia will win 32 gold medals in Brisbane, Australia. That will be a part of our dream, and I'm sure the Saudi Arabia will get to that position. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And the gold medal might be from gold production from Saudi Arabia. That'd be interesting. Turning to you, Robert, maybe also if you're looking at mining in 2032, the one key takeaway that you'd like people to bring back home.
My small prayer is that humanity realizes that we live on only one planet, and that Saudi Arabia is the custodian of the holy mosques and the last revealed truth of the Prophet Muhammad, that Islam is a religion of peace, and that this become better understood in America and around the world, that the teachings of Islam are so important and the principles of Islamic development are so important. There's so much misunderstanding of the kingdom that the tourism industry will help. The development of the youth in mining will help. And the continued role of providing the world's energy security is very important. So my prayer is that this gentle planet works together. We see different groups around the world balkanizing the supply chain. The Americans want their own supply chain. The Chinese want their own supply chain. The Europeans are worried where everything is going to come from. I think if we can gather here once a year and bring people that are actually involved in bringing things out of the earth and find a more conscious way to do that in the land of the holy mosques, with the support of this young, dynamic government and the vision of your government, that we can do something that is good for our children and good for our grandchildren, and we can learn to be brothers and sisters and work together for the future. So actually, that's my prayer, not my prediction.
Very good. Andrea, I was seeing you nodding to those words from Robert. What's your take on this? If you actually fast forward to 2032, how do we get there? What's the perspective that you have here?
Yeah, well, for 2032, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised that a lot of the themes, a lot of the sentiment from the entire summit has been around, as you mentioned, sustainability, reusability, but also emissions control and environmental considerations as well, which is, I honestly found surprising because I have worked in a lot of mines around the world, and countries have very different legislations concerning, well, safety firstly, and emissions control in particular. So I think if we really do want to go forward in the future and be more sustainable, that we need to have some legislation changes in certain countries about the emissions controls in mining, so that we can be more sustainable going through to the future. And then I think for the 2030s, at that point, we will have not just Earth mineral utilization, we will have the moon missions well underway and a sustainable presence on the moon, and we will also be doing non-impact sustainable lunar in situ mineral resource utilization as well. What you said about water is very interesting too, because we don't have the luxury of water on the lunar surface because it evaporates instantly. So we already had to start coming up with techniques that do not use water in the resource processing to begin with. So I think there's a lot of nice synergies that we could work together with our industries there.
No, very true. Yeah, thank you. Chris, if I turn to you now, I mean, you've been witnessing this wonderful event for the last 3 days, and really seeing, the series of discourse and contributions from everyone. What's your key takeaway that we should have, and next steps towards 2032?
Well, Remy, I've had the privilege and opportunity to take guidance from His Excellency for 2 years on this event. So I have, over a long period of time, understood the vision of the kingdom, the commitment from the kingdom, and where things should go. But my key takeaway is suddenly everyone here was in the room when it happened yesterday, when suddenly the most eminent miners in the world, the most eminent speakers, financiers, from their excellencies, the Royal Highness, were talking about what was going to happen. Suddenly you could feel it. By lunchtime yesterday, everyone suddenly understood what was going on in Saudi Arabia, and I think that people didn't believe it until they came. And the message has got out on social media, on video clips around the world. Our inboxes are full from people who aren't here, asking why they weren't invited and why they're not here. And I think that we have all been present at the start of something massive. And I think at next year's event, the pressure and the people who are coming and the next level of interest in Saudi Arabia, I think will be tangibly different. So I think that we've all had the privilege of understanding and sharing in the vision that's firmly been implanted, and we've seen it happen. We've been part of it.
Very true. Now, Warren, you have the incredible responsibility to be the last one on the last panel of the day. Please share your thoughts.
First of all, I wanted to thank to be part of this, the premier conference here in Saudi Arabia. I think it's very insightful, very much looking forward to what the world is going to be like. The one thing I've had with respect to the mining business and the renewables business and the environmentalists, I care very much about the environment. I've been to many of the major jungles of the world. I've seen the interface between development and jungle, so I'm very much an environmentalist. And I see a fair amount of misguidance going on that I believe will be corrected with respect. So at 2032, people will have figured out what I already know today. Wind and solar is not going to be our source of energy. We do not have grid-level storage. When you look at a city like, let's say, Vancouver in Canada, where you have clouds for 2 months straight in the wintertime, We've seen examples here globally with respect to Britain. No wind this summer. Don't know what's going on with Germany. Solar has not worked for them. Shutting down nuclear power plants. Don't know why. You watched the Texans freeze last winter. I think the Germans are probably going to freeze this winter. Wind and solar, it works great in, let's say, the desert areas that are windy, but then the wind is unpredictable. The only power source we are going to power this world with going forward is nuclear energy. We have lots of uranium out there. The Chinese have figured this out, but nobody else has. The Chinese right now are under the largest nuclear power build-out in the world today. The one in the US, which happened during the 70s, was shut down by environmentalists half a century ago. So for the last half century, the Americans have been burning coal instead of using clean nuclear power. Nuclear energy has been set back about half a century in R&D because of the environmental groups attacking nuclear energy in the 70s. But if you look back over the last 50 years, there's a tremendous track record of safety and generating, quietly going about their work, generating non-CO2 generating base load power, 24/7, always there. And the safety record, despite the incidents that have happened, has been better than all forms of other base load, whether it be even hydroelectric. It's safer than hydroelectric power. So it's one of the safest forms of energy. I believe by 2032, people will figure that out. The Gen 4 reactors will be more common. The Gen 4, which will be the molten salt reactors that are fail-safe, modular, reducing the capital costs, which is one of the biggest costs in nuclear power. But we have a nuclear future ahead of us, and that'll provide the base for all the electrical power and for the green future we have ahead of us. And it will become more apparent that wind and solar won't be able to deliver on all aspects, and we need a strong base load, which will be nuclear power. And the uranium will be provided by the miners like ourselves, and we'll go out there and find it, make sure there's adequate supply.
Thank you for this. I think we all agree that in 2032, we're going to have a world with more mining and more sustainable mining, and definitely Saudi Arabia is going to be leading the way on this course. And so I'd like you to join me to thank our different panelists before we turn it over to Ryan for the closing remark for the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.